To understand Japan's decision to attack the United States, we must look back at the mindset dominating Tokyo in the early 1940s. Decades of rapid modernization, known as the Meiji Restoration, had transformed Japan into a major industrial and military power. Victories over China in 1895 and Russia in 1905 fueled a belief in Japan's unique destiny and military superiority. The military saw itself as the nation's soul, wielding immense political power and shaping policy. By the late 1930s, Japan was deeply entrenched in a brutal war in China, desperate for resources like oil, resources the US embargoed in response to Japanese aggression. This scarcity, combined with national pride, created a volatile situation. Hardliners in Tokyo saw war with America not as madness, but as a calculated risk to preserve their empire. To retreat would be humiliation. To attack was a gamble based on the belief that a swift, devastating blow could force America to negotiate. They believed their fighting spirit and battle experience could deliver victory before America's industrial might could respond. The plan was built on pride, past glories, and a dangerous underestimation of their adversary. This was not a sudden impulse, but the result of decades of ambition and belief in Japan's destiny. The stage was set for a monumental gamble. Japan's leaders gravely misunderstood American society. They saw Americans as soft, divided, and too attached to comfort to fight a long war. This view, shaped by Japan's own values of duty and sacrifice, blinded them to America's potential for unity. Political debates and labor strikes in the US were seen as weakness, not democratic strength. Even warnings from Admiral Yamamoto, who knew America better, were ignored by hardliners. The attack on Pearl Harbor, they believed, would shatter American morale. Instead, it united the US and awakened a powerful, determined adversary. Japan's fatal error was seeing America through a distorted lens. Japan's war plan hinged on a surprise attack at Pearl Harbor. The goal: cripple the US Pacific Fleet, buying time for Japan to seize resource-rich territories across Asia. The attack was meticulously planned, with the carrier strike force sailing in secrecy and using innovative tactics. By destroying battleships, Japan hoped to shock America into accepting their new dominance in Asia. They believed a single decisive blow would force the US to negotiate. But this high-stakes gamble underestimated America's resolve and capacity to recover. The dagger was aimed at the heart of American power, but it would not end the fight. It would ignite it. The gamble was on. Japan's greatest miscalculation was underestimating American industry. Their doctrine focused on a single decisive battle, believing spirit and skill could overcome material disadvantage. But World War II was a war of attrition and production. While Japan celebrated early victories, American factories began producing at an unprecedented scale. The US built hundreds of thousands of planes and ships, far outpacing Japan. Japan's leaders dismissed these numbers, trusting in their technology and fighting spirit. But America could innovate, adapt, and replace losses. Japan could not. The Pacific War became a contest between the samurai's sword and the industrial hammer. In the end, overwhelming production and adaptability crushed Japan's hopes for a decisive victory. The sword shattered against the hammer. Japan's rigid pride and inflexible strategy doomed their war effort. Their vast defensive perimeter stretched resources thin, making them vulnerable to America's island-hopping campaign. Isolated garrisons became irrelevant as the US bypassed strongholds and advanced relentlessly. Political paralysis in Tokyo made surrender unthinkable, even as defeat became inevitable. Desperation led to kamikaze attacks, sacrificing lives in futile resistance. The lesson: hubris and underestimating your enemy lead to disaster. Adaptability and humility are essential for survival. Japan's story is a warning. Will and spirit alone cannot overcome overwhelming odds. Only clear-eyed realism and the courage to adapt can ensure survival and success.